everyone, my name is Ali Raza and I'm a part-time software developer. Today we will discuss about some basics of C#.NET programming part number 3. Today we will cover the areas of variables, variables types and variable declaration, and after that we will cover the data types and the types of data types we use in a C#.NET, and after that we will come on the assignment operators and of use of operators and its types, that is assignment operator, a mathematical operator, etc. After that we will program a small program which will clear most of the concepts which I am going to describe now, and after that we will program a very different program which will do all the things that we will study through these topics. So let's start from the variables. Variables are concerned with the storage of data. Think of variables in computer memory as boxes sitting on a shelf. You can put things in boxes and take them out again, or you can just look inside a box to see if anything is there. The same goes for variables. You place data in them and you can take it out or look at it as required. Data in computer is also the same thing, a series of zeros and ones, and that's all the game here. So to use variable, you have to firstly declare them, like you have to declare its types that we will discuss further later in the topic. First of all, we have to assign some name to a variable, and then we have to declare which type of variable it belongs to, which type of data type we are using with it, like which box we are putting our variable. So let's start with it. There are two types of declaration. The first one is explicit variable declaration and the second one is implicit variable declaration. Some people also explicit as explicit or implicit as implicit. So there is no language barrier here. We're not talking about the language, we're basically talking about the programming here. So you can say pronounce as ever, or whatever easy you feel, you can say it. So in the explicit declaration of the variables, we assign the type to our variable name all by ourselves instead of relying on the computer to do our job. Like int age, float division, string name. Int, float, string are basically data types or types of the variable, and age, division, and name are the names of the variables. Whereas the implicit variables, we don't have to rely about carefully declaring the type of our variable, because in this one we just need one keyword var, and the compiler detects what kind of variable it is going to be when we initialize values into the program, like var, age, division, name. Basically var is the keyword which will through which the compiler will detect what type of variable we are using when we initialize the value inside the variable. So it is very amazing. One thing I want to clear here is that C# is not a dynamic language here, because it is still static, and Python is a dynamic language because it is a system low level language, and C# is not a system low level, it is high level programming language. So let's move on to the data types and its types. So let me clear about some mechanics of the numeric types that we use in the data types. So numeric types have some mechanics of storing numbers as zeros and ones in the memory of a computer. For example, for integer values, you simply take several bits, individual digits that can be 0 or 1, and represent your number in binary format. A variable storing n bits enables you to represent any number between 0 and 2n minus 1. So n is number of whole numbers. So n equals to the whole numbers, and you can add 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on up to millions or lakhs and whatever. So any number above this value are too big to fit into this variable, like 0 and between 2 and minus 1. If you have studied Victorian mathematics, so it was a sign that we use n 0 and then e and then 2 and minus 1. So that was the limit we use in the Victorian equations or that discrete mathematics. Let us jump for the example. For example, suppose you have a variable that can store 2 bits. The data stored between integers and the bits representing those integers is therefore as follows. 0 can store 0 and 2 times of 0, 1 can store 0 and 1 bit, and 2 can store 1 and 0, and 3 can store 1, 1. So this is how the bits are stored in memory. To store more number, you need more bits, like 3 bits, to enable you to store the numbers from 0 to 7. So the limit is from 0, starts from the 0, not from 1. So keep that in mind. Because in computer, or because basically computer works as your mathematics or your mathematic language program does. So it is all programmed on mathematics. So you have to keep in mind that 0 is also a value. Rather, is it you have studied that 0 is a null value in mathematics, but 0 is a value in computer. So don't take it as a null value here. So the inevitable result of this process or system is that you would need an infinite number of bits to be able to store every imaginable number, which isn't going to fit in your limited PC, but you might have to buy a lot of hardware drive space. So that's why we are going to use data types in it to store the values inside them. Let's start with the simple types. Basically, there are 3 simple types, which are char, bool, and string. Char is the basically single Unicode character stored as an integer between 0 and to 65,535 of the values. And bool is the boolean value, which is also known as true and false, mostly used in the loops, which is the while loop. And the other one is the string, which is the sequence of character. Basically, char and string are both the same thing, but in some contexts they are different. In some values, when we declare, you will see in future tutorials, these become different things. So let's talk about the integer types here. The first one is the aspite integer values between -128 to 127, and basically the alias for using aspite, which I will show you in the program, is system.aspite. So I have not written here, but that could only be shown you on the program interface, which I will code after some time here, definitely. So let's talk about the byte here. There 1 byte equals to the 8 bits. So 1 byte, sorry, I have done wrong. Basically, 1 bit is equal to 8. Let's talk about the byte here. Integer values between the byte is 0 to 255, and after that comes the short. Integer values between the short is -2, 32,768 and 32,767. So basically, u short alias is system.int16, and after that comes the int, which has the alias of system.int32. And you have seen how much value the int or long can easily store. That is too much of the values. It is like a million and billions of values, and it is like trillions and zillions of values you can store in a single long integer. So you don't be confused by the u character here, because it is the shorthand for unsigned, meaning that you can't store negative numbers in variables of those types. So let's move towards the floating point types. You also need some data types that could round off your values, like in decimal places, like 3.2 something, which these data types cannot show any of those values. If I just divide 2 by 3, then the answer will be 2.1 something. But using the integer type will not show that value on your CMD command prompt. So we have to use floating point types like float, double, and decimal. And basically these store values with the formula of 6 into m, which is multiplied by the 2 into e, where allowed values for m and e differ for each type. M and e is the formula, is the values of the formula that we are using here. So e is the basically log of 10 of base 10, This is not the I could dive into that mathematical class, but I have to stick to your tutorials, so I'm not gonna dive here. So you have to Google them through those things. What is M and E here? So let's start with the string interpolation. This is a very new feature that Microsoft has introduced in its latest C# language. So it is the writing simple method, writing the text to the console in the following way. But now you're specifying your variables. But before that, you have defined before this update, you have to put the parameters of 0 or 1. Now you don't have, and then use the variables after that, putting the comma for these things. And now you don't have to do the same things again. You just have to put the variable inside those parentheses, and you don't have to go through that hurdle and write the long codes. So let's start with the operators. That's it for the data types and types. C# contains several operators for this purpose. By combining operators with variables and literal values, together referred to as operands, when used with operators, you can create expressions which are the basic building blocks of computation. This is known as the expression. Together, which we combine variables, operators, and literal values. That combination is known as the expressions that I was talking about later. Um, the operators available range from the simple to highly complex, some of which you might never encounter outside of the mathematical application. So there are some of the operators that are categorized here, like unary operator, binary operator, ternary operator. It acts on the single operand, and the binary acts on the two operands, and the ternary acts on the three operands, and so on. Let's talk about some operators here, like mathematical operators, in which we use plus, used to sum up the variables, and minus, used to subtract the variables, and product and division, and remainder, which shows us remainder when variable 2 is divided by the variable 3. And after that comes the increment decrement operator, which is very important in when we go through loops, like for loops, do loops, and while loops. Basically, plus plus is the increment operator. Assigned the value of variable 2 plus 1, and variable 2 then increments further by 1. Like it is like adding plus 2 to the variable 2. So this is how a variable is incremented in this way, if we put plus plus before the variable 2. And if we put the minus, double minus before variable 2, it is assigned the value of variable 2 minus 1, and then again the variable 2 is decremented by 1. So it is so you can also say as variable 2 minus 2. This is how this incrementation works here. So the other incrementation and decrementation procedure is also as follows, like variable 1 is assigned the variable 2, and variable 2 is incremented by 1. Like if I have the value of variable 1 like 2, variable 1 is equal to 2. So if I put this procedure of increment operator, like incrementation of variable 1 is equal to variable 2 and increment operator after the variable 2, then you will see that the value of variable 1, which is assigned to the variable 2, which is equals to 2, will be incremented by 1, which is 3. So this is how this increment operator works. Plus plus always results in its operand being incremented by 1, and double minus always results in its operand is decremented by 1. So it only depends on the placement of these operators. Where you place them, it will act accordingly. So let's start coding our very first program, a very simple program. Open this one. Great. Okay. Let's just move it, because I was just practicing for you guys. So I have to put the screenshot in your article. Let's start our very first coding, our very first small project here. Let's start with the declaring the type and the naming our very first variable, like int is the integer, is the expression for the integer, and I code it as my integer here, and I put the semicolon here, which will show you. Let's also type the data string character, a character text. For the text, we will use a string data type. For that, we will use my string or so that's it. Our variables have been declared. So it's the time of initializing them. We can initialize my integer, a value of 17 here. And after that, let's initialize some value of my string also. That will be I'm gonna use here like my number is this, and it will show this our integer what we are doing here. So you can see that I'm very amazed by the intelligence of Visual Studio. You can see that it is showing us an error, a green squiggly, that variable my string is assigned, but its value is never used. The value is not being used. So what we are going to do here is we are going to use their value through using console, that because we have to print on the console. We are going to write the code here that we have to write the our code on the console. So we are going to use that way. Before that, we are going to use a string interpolation, which I discussed before on the article. That how we are going to use. So we are going to add now the two brackets here for our parameters that are because we parentheses are basically used as parameters, we can directly use that parameter as a variable. We don't have to use 0 and 1s now. Parameter 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. We can now use these parentheses and use directly our parameters inside our values inside that parameter. So I'm gonna code like my integer, we will use my number is that, which is my integer. So my number is my integer. So whatever my number is 17 will be print out. Never forget to put the semicolon at the end, because it is the most common thing in C#. If you don't do that, you will get an error. So before that, we will have to code a read key method here, and this is how we put the read key method. And don't forget to put a read key method, because if we don't use the read key method, then our program will not will run, but after running it will shut down. Okay, so we have to read key method, because it when it will run and show our result, then it has to read a key that will press on our keyboard to exit the program. So it will show the message that press to continue. So that is basically for us to basically press any key to exit from that program. So basically this is how this whole program works. So let's hit Control F5 to see what happens. And you can see that my number is 17. As you can see, there was no space I left back there, so that's why now I hit enter and it will exit that thing right away. So if I put the space here, it will show the space out there. Let's start it again. So like you can see that my number is 17 is printed out here on the console screen. So it is very easy peasy now. So let's hit the enter key here, and you can see press any key to continue, and we will press the enter again, and we are now back to our programming interface. So I hope you could have understood what I am talking about here. So let's go to the major part now. Let's talk about something different, what we have learned out today. We are going to code everything we have learned out today. So for that, I'm going to use, first of all, we are going to use two variables now here. The two variables are basically we use data type int, and the two variables are the first number and the second number. Okay, so that's here. As we have just declared the number, the variable, but we had not initialized or used them in the program yet. So you will get a squiggly. Don't get confused by this green squiggly. If you get a red squiggly, then you must think what the error you are causing to the program. So that's the main problem when it comes to the red squiggly. But when it comes to the green squiggly, you don't have to worry about it. So this is our first one. So let's we also want to give a username to our program to start with. So let's use the string data type for our user. Let's take a variable username. So now we will enter any text, any Unicode character, UTF-8 or UTF-16 or UTF-128 or whatever it is. It will pick from your machine. So basically, string is basically used for the Unicode character, basically your alphabets and text characters. So let's start with our coding. Let's code with the console write line, and in that, sorry, I forgot to put the dot here, and you can see it showed me an error. That is why I prefer Visual Studio on every other IDE. So let's enter our name. Okay, so this is how we're going to enter our name here. So now I'm going to code that username equals to console readline. You might be confused here, like Ali Raza, what are you doing here? What is readline here? Basically, console, you're giving command to your console application, like when I enter my name, you have to read that and then proceed forward. So adding this line will help the compiler to detect that you have entered your name, and now you have to proceed with the entering your name. And when you have entered your name, it will proceed further. Before that, it will not read, otherwise it will not read your name, and it will proceed further, go through your program and go through every other line, but it will not read the line that you will enter. Like I will enter my name Ali Raza, and it will not see that line if I don't add this dot read line, console dot read line command. So this is why this is somehow complex to you guys, but don't worry, you will get to it very, very soon. So now I want some greetings from my program. So let's help him greet me, what I want him to do. So let's type here, welcome username. Don't worry, I'm using string interpolation to the exclamation mark and forest. Okay, let's move on to our next one. So now I want console to show that I want it to show to ask me for a number. So I will enter first number, which will be, sorry, will be number. Okay, so I'm gonna use here the string interpolation. So the first number. So what's the error here? Let's find out what's the error here. So basically, we don't enter the name. We are asking for the number, right? We don't entering the number. So that's why it was giving us error. Okay, let's move forward and let's use our very first method of using the alias for the integer. So now you are going to initialize the integer type into the variable. So for that we use the convert method dot to int 32. Basically int 32 is alias for the integer value. Okay, so for double value it will be 2 double, and for long value it will be int 64. Okay, so these how these things works in C#. So I'm gonna type int 32. As you can see, my IntelliSense is very smart, so it is giving me options after I typing. So what we are going to do here is we are going to console dot read line for what we will enter there. That's it, and that was our first one. And let's do with the second one too. Write line, go and enter the second number. Okay, so second number equals to convert dot to int console dot read line 3. Okay, so this is how our program will display now. We will enter the number and so on. So what operations we want to operate on these two numbers? We want addition, we want subtraction, we want product, and we want remainder. So let's start with the very first of our program with the addition. Let's see what we can do. Let me introduce you to a very important thing first. You can see that this is a comment for a single line. If I want to comment a single line, I will use this type of comment. Okay, so this is how you can comment or and write everything, because if you comment, the compiler will detect this line, but it will not show or read the whole line, or it will bypass that line, because it is just for you for us developers, like professionals, use these commands to break the whole code to tell the reader or the user or the client that what is happening on which point, what the program is doing, what it is doing, etc, etc. So basically this is the basically the work of the command. So don't you worry about the use of the command. And for multiple lines we use um, star, and where I want to finish it I would put that there. Okay, I want to finish it here, so I will put here. So you can see the whole 3 lines has been commented. So this comment is for multiple lines. So don't so this is how the comments are used in this C#. So don't worry about that. So let's use operators. Okay, let's start with our very first operator here. Console dot write line here we are going to use string interpolation, and I will write that sum of 2 numbers. Sorry. Equals to plus. Why I added plus here? You will be confused. To add multiple statements in one line, you can add the plus sign here and use the multiple statements afterwards. So it will join those statements, but how you are using it. So here we will perform the operation. Here I will use 2 and put the sum. As you have noticed the error here, that I'm using this positive sign outside of the parentheses, so it is not going to perform the operation. So that's how we are going to use the sum inside the parentheses, not outside the parentheses. This is our first one, and let's move on with the console dot line. As you can see, I written the wrong spelling of console, so it has given me text weekly. Let's move forward. After sum comes the subtraction. First number minus second number. That's it. Let's also go for the product. So the product, 2 numbers equals to, sorry, first number to the product, second number and this is giving us an error. You can see the whole line is red squiggly because we didn't put these brackets for that, or what we did wrong here. Yes, we did this wrong here. We exited that, close that bracket there. So this whole line was giving us, that is why the whole line was giving us the red squiggly. So let us line dot right line sorry to interpolation and first number divided by the second number, and that's it. You might be saying, yeah, Ali Raza, it is taking too much time. So let us do one more trick. I want to tell you guys, like if you are dealing with the same line again and again, you can use Control C over here by selecting that line, and then you can do the Control V on the next line, which you guys will be very familiar with. So the remainder, we are talking about the remainder here. Remainder of two numbers will be, so we are going to use remainder here, remainder operator, and after that at the end we want to the console to read them all and show us a read key. So here we go, and that is it. Finish these notifications and let us hit the running position. Voila. Let me type my name and check it out. Okay, enter first number. What I want to enter. Okay, let me enter 3. And let me enter 3 also. Okay, so the addition of the sum of two numbers is 6, and subtraction is definitely 0, and definitely product of the two numbers is 9, and division of the two numbers is equal to $. Okay, what is happening here? Let me see. Oh yes, I'm using two times the interpolation sign. That's why we were facing that error. We were seeing that $sign in our console screen. So let me type my name again, and this is the first number. Now we choose the bigger number 12 and a different number 11. Well, you can see the sum is definitely 23 and subtraction is minus as 1, because you minus 12 from 11 is 1, and the product is definitely equal to 132, and the division equals to the 1, and the remainder also equals to the 1. So basically, why it is not rounding off here? Because we use the int here, guys. If we use the double here or the float here, so if I use the float here, which is definitely going to be a bummer here, we have to convert them to float. Let's that thing definitely not going to convert. Let's use the double here, because for the float function is different. I couldn't remember for like double, and for like that it is also double. Okay, let's run the program. And the first number we add, and now here 12, and second number is also 11. So this is how it is showing us the division, and the remainder is 1 definitely, and it is showing us in decimal points. So our program is running, and this is it from my guys, from my side. Hope you have enjoyed it a lot. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the further lectures. Allah Hafiz.